Let's please bring in now U.S. Marshal John Muffler. John, thank you so much for your time on this. So the search is on now. This man has been missing since early Friday morning when he was discovered. We've now learned that he may, in fact, be armed. We just heard the lieutenant colonel tell us that, as well as that the concern is really growing here. We've also learned that there was a drone operating in the area around the time of Burham's escape. What do you take from this new information we learned today?
Thanks for having me back on. Yeah, so my takeaway from that press conference is that he is probably armed. I'd imagine, it sounds like he may have had help prior to the escape. And so maybe he got, a firearm from that person. But I would say, because that area is very rural, there's hunting cabins up there. It's a big hunting location. You have houses that are only used a couple times a year, cabins. Very likely, is my guess, is he got access to one of those cabins and found some sort of firearm, perhaps a hunting rifle. So I'm just like conjecture there, but I believe he's armed, and I believe that's probably one of the ways he could get himself armed. I think the drone is obviously very suspicious. Flying a drone outside of a prison late at night, obviously, there's a concern there. Sounds like there's a good connection there. And like anything that has an IP address, that's all trackable. Cell towers don't lie. And so if there's any kind of communications going in and out, leading up to and after that escape, the marshals and the investigators are all on that for sure.
All right. So, John, we heard there that he is likely getting help. And we've learned that authorities are also interviewing people who may be helping him, probably his family, probably his friend. They have not announced any arrests today. But in addition to believing that he did receive help, they also are really adamant about believing he is still in the immediate area there. Talk to us about some of the logic behind those theories.
Yeah, it sounds like the campsites are definitely a big help as far as a clue into that he's still there. And, were they preset campsites? My feeling is perhaps it's hard. I know some cases from Pennsylvania in the past few years, actually. One being in 2014 where PA troopers were shot. One was killed. That fugitive went on the run in northeastern Pennsylvania for about 7 weeks. It's hard. These fugitives, they can secrete themselves in thick brush, caves, crevices. There's a lot of people working this case, but that's a lot of wilderness, and it's easy to hide. You got a guy like Eric Rudolph from remember the Olympic Park bombing some years ago? He hid in the woods of North Carolina for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, they pretty much stayed in the same area. So they have a good feeling where location-wise, but again, just having that location, we're talking square miles. It's really hard to find people that could be secreted or hidden amongst all of that.
Well, John, you said something that I found interesting, because we heard there in the press conference again about Burham leaving these stockpiles, and so I actually was going to ask you that question. Well, do you think that he was planning for this and maybe had those stockpiles before he even was arrested, because he was on the run before he was initially taken into custody? So it's possible that he left these. Or on the other hand, is he leaving these stockpiles, these kind of like breadcrumbs for authorities, potentially unintentionally, and maybe that shows that he's not as calculating as maybe first assumed?
I don't want to give him that much credit.
Yeah.
But I think that he, those campsites, those stockpiles, obviously were there for, his purposes. How they got there and when they got there, obviously, I believe the state police already knows that. I think that's obviously was done beforehand. That's my opinion, to help him. It's going to help him, stay hidden for a period of time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.